It is with great sadness that I announce that Marvel have not learned their lessons from the past few projects. With the lukewarm reception to recent projects like The Marvels and Secret Invasion, the franchise really needed a big start this 2024 to regain the trust of the audience. And when the trailer for Echo was released,
you and I are the same.
Everyone thought they'd found the perfect pick-me-up. Under Kevin Feige, the MCU has been a beacon of cinematic excellence, transcending Hollywood and becoming a pop culture phenomenon over time. With an impressive cast of heroes and fun storytelling, they created a vast interconnected universe that has captivated audiences worldwide. However, a few missteps and questionable decisions later, critics and fans alike have been scratching their heads as they try to refine the winning formula. You used to be able to walk out of a theater after seeing an MCU movie knowing you'd had a good time. Nowadays, bad VFX, inorganic creative choices, and poorly scripted content have made the recent movies and TV shows hard to watch.
I don't know what to be. Tell me what to be.
The Disney takeover of Marvel may have provided the cash and market reach for a franchise of this scale, but it's also steered Marvel towards a more commercial course, one that appeals to as many people as possible. To keep its market dominance, Disney makes diversity and representation a priority in their storytelling. I don't hate it as much as others do, but the relentless pursuit of a broad appeal has led to a lack of risk-taking in the medium. As such, there's been a glaring lack of originality in the universe, leaving the franchise in immediate need of a creative facelift. Overall, the creative direction of the Marvel franchise has been significantly impacted by Disneyfication, and opinion of the MCU has never been at a lower point than it is right now. Transitioning from the Thanos storyline was always going to be tough. Phase 4 and 5 brought new challenges, with Marvel trying to tie the old storylines with new ones, and Disney trying to occupy their new streaming platform. Despite the success of Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, cracks started to show early. WandaVision, The Falcon, and The Winter Soldier and Loki did well to expand the MCU's narrative beyond the boundaries of theatre. They were mostly alright, although some people found them tedious. I considered them growing pains. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania and Thor: Love and Thunder had their moments, but shoddy CGI and lazy writing made them really difficult to like. At this point, there was far too much focus on linking us to the bigger cinematic universe instead of just creating well-made adventure films that had been the engine of the MCU's success for a very long time. The Marvels, Secret Invasion, and Miss Marvel were what they were: disasters. Quite frankly, the less said about them, the better. Enter Echo, a Hawkeye spin-off with characters from Daredevil. When the trailer dropped in November, it promised an ultra-violent revenge adventure for the more bloodthirsty fans. I was really hoping that they would keep that promise. Even the Netflix Daredevil and Punisher fans who had given up on the franchise were getting reeled back in. However, there were some warning signs pretty early on. The vibe was seriously off in cast interviews.
Now, what did you guys learn about yourselves through playing Henry and Bonnie?
I gotta think about this one.
I think what I learned about myself portraying this was that I have a lot of hearing privilege.
And some behind-the-scenes rumors reinforced the idea that Disney was more focused on just putting out stuff than delivering an entertaining narrative. Nowadays, a surefire way to know you're watching Disney content is when all the talk is centered around representation or privilege. But other than a handful of activists and their San Francisco buddies, it's hard to find people who actually care about all of that. That aside, there seemed to be little enthusiasm and chemistry among the cast, and I had a hard time watching these actors sit and talk in these interviews.
I think so many people feel like this project might be checking boxes in some way, but
I got the vibe that they were trying to say the most correct things, as everyone is nowadays. I didn't really care for the Echo character from the Hawkeye series, and I can admit I went into Echo with some skepticism. Hawkeye finished as one of the more forgettable MCU Disney Plus series, Unfortunately, it is required knowledge for this show, as there are way more callbacks and references than advertised. I was hyped to see Kingpin on screen again, and Vincent D'Onofrio works his magic when he gets screen time.
I'm always evolving as an actor and sticking my neck as far as I can out there to try and do the best job I can.
But Kingpin eventually feels like what he is, a character shooed in from a different story with the expectation that his core conflict and stakes will lend itself to this story. Well, sometimes it did and other times it didn't. The first episode is made in that original Daredevil flavor of intensity and violence, but things start to taper off from episode 2, leaving you with more of the same MCU content from last year. A promising first episode, followed by a concrete nosedive. Echo is a deeply confused TV show. Half of it is self-sustaining, family-led story, while the other half is a follow-up to previous Marvel properties. It struggles with this narrative tug-of-war from the start, with one story being fresh and engaging, while the other falls into a familiar dullness. The fight scenes are great at first, but slowly start to get really lazy and contrived in a way that reminds me a lot of the lightsaber battles in the recent horrible Star Wars movies. The previously released fight scene with Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock Daredevil character made some buzz recently for the terrible choreography and clunkiness. Combat is sparse, and it feels like they left a lot on the table with fight scenes. However, some of the fight scenes in Echo are visceral, creative, and well shot. They were clearly going for the brutal style of Daredevil and the Punisher, and while Echo does fall short of this lofty goal, it was nice to see some grit in the MCU. To be fair, Echo does have its good moments. Alaqua Cox's portrayal of Maya Lopez adds authenticity to a well-written character.
Maya or Fisk? Maya, 100%.
The fantastic use of sound to portray her deafness and the underlying Native American mythology really stood out for me. All of this is eventually put aside to shove through the Hawkeye storyline, which must feel completely jarring to audiences jumping into Echo from scratch. Even for those fans like me who did watch Hawkeye, sidelining vital character development for an arguably weaker, more forgettable show seemed like a misstep. Echo isn't the spiritual successor to Daredevil many were hoping for, but it was quite watchable for the most part. Punisher Daredevil are the two highest rated Marvel shows, and Disney just continues to ignore them as creative templates for some reason. I'm not optimistic at all when I think about the upcoming Daredevil reboot. Sometimes I lay up at night thinking about what Disney may do with it. Echo, to me, is a missed opportunity for Marvel to do something different. Caught in the Disneyfication web, it fails to live up to expectations. It's definitely not the worst thing they've put out, but it just could have been so much better if Disney had it in them to commit to the theme. But they kept trying to tie it into the rest of the MCU that it sort of just eroded its self-contained identity. Whenever the show brings up its connections to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you can feel the tension and stakes leaking away. So yeah, with yet another show, Marvel started strong but quickly went downhill. Echo is just as rough around the edges as recent Marvel stuff, and I just wish the story was smoother, grittier, and less derivative. In the end, Echo is emblematic of a larger Marvel and Disney problem. It's a show torn between two worlds, struggling to find its identity, while also trying to fit into the Disney mold. As Marvel grapples with declining quality and a lack of creative direction,
Don't be a dick!
It's too late. Look at me.
only time will tell if Marvel can reclaim its glory and recover from its worst possible start to the year.